Have you ever heard the name Ernest Olkowski? A man shrouded in mystery, a figure of intrigue, or perhaps a time traveler? Welcome to the curious world of Ernest Olkowski, a world that exists between the lines of reality and fiction, between the ordinary and the extraordinary, between the past and the future. Ernest Olkowski is an enigma, a paradox in human form. Born in the bustling heart of the 20th century, his story begins like any other. Records show that he came into this world in an average town, with average parents, and an average life. Yet, as we all know, appearances can be deceiving. In the early years of his life, Olkowski was just another face in the crowd, another name on the register. His childhood was uneventful, and his adolescence, ordinary. His life was as predictable as the ticking of a clock. But if you've ever watched the hands of a clock, you'll know that while they may move in predictable circles, they are always moving forward, always pushing into the future. And that's where our story really begins. When we look beyond the surface of Olkowski's early life, beyond the school records and the family photos, we begin to see the shadows lurking in the background. The strange coincidences, the unexplainable events, the unsettling anomalies. Like a jigsaw puzzle with pieces that don't quite fit, Olkowski's life is a picture that doesn't make sense. A picture of a man who should be ordinary but isn't. A man who lived through the 20th century but who might just have experienced the 21st. Who is Ernest Olkowski? Is he a man out of time, a traveler on a cosmic journey? Or is he simply a man with a mysterious past? As we delve deeper into his life, things start to take a strange turn. In the next scene, we begin to uncover the early life of Ernest Olkowski. The life of a man who may not be what he seems. A man who, like a clock's hands, is always moving, always pushing, always traveling into the unknown. Born in the heart of America, Ernest Olkowski's early life was as normal as any other child's. Born in the mid-20th century, in an unassuming Midwestern town, Ernest's childhood was filled with the usual trappings of the era. He played baseball in the local park, went fishing in the nearby creek, and built model airplanes in his family's garage. Ernest's schooling was standard for the time. He attended the local elementary school where he was known to be an average student. His teachers remember him as a quiet, unassuming child, not particularly outstanding, but neither was he a troublemaker. He had a small circle of friends, and was known for his love of science fiction novels. As Ernest grew older, he took on a series of odd jobs around town. He worked at the local grocery store, stocked shelves at the hardware store, and even spent a summer as a lifeguard at the community pool. During his high school years, Ernest developed a keen interest in physics and mathematics, often staying after school to discuss complex theories with his teachers. After graduating from high school, Ernest enrolled in a community college, majoring in engineering. He worked part-time at a local factory to pay for his tuition. Those who knew him during this time remember a hard-working, focused young man who seemed to have a clear path laid out before him. Yet, despite this seeming normalcy, there were hints of the extraordinary in Ernest's early life. He was known for his uncanny ability to predict outcomes, be it the winner of a local baseball game or the result of a school election. Many shrugged it off as mere coincidences, but in hindsight, these instances seemed to hint at a peculiar ability that would later define Ernest's life. His life took a turn when he started working for a mysterious tech company after college. The company was known for its secretive nature and cutting-edge technology, but few knew what exactly it did. And then Ernest disappeared. Just like that, a man who had lived a seemingly ordinary life vanished without a trace. What happened next is a tale of mystery, intrigue, and possibly time travel. In the late 1980s, Ernest Olkowski vanished without a trace. One day, he was there, living his life as any other man would, and the next, he was gone. Not a note, not a whisper, not a single clue that could hint at his whereabouts. He had simply disappeared, as if he had been wiped off the face of the earth. The news of his sudden disappearance spread like wildfire. Friends, family, and neighbors were left baffled, questioning how someone could just vanish into thin air. The local authorities were alerted and a thorough investigation was launched. The police combed through his house, his workplace, and even the places he frequented, hoping to find any lead that could shed light on Ernest's sudden departure. But the more they delved into the case, the more elusive it became. Ernest's bank accounts hadn't been touched. His car was found parked in his garage, untouched. His passport was still in his home, along with all his personal belongings. It was as if Ernest had stepped out for a walk and never returned. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. Despite their best efforts, the police were unable to uncover any leads. They interviewed everyone Ernest knew, even distant relatives and old friends, but to no avail. The case of Ernest Olkowski's disappearance became one of the most baffling mysteries of the decade. It was a riddle wrapped in an enigma, a puzzle no one could solve. As the years went by, people began to move on. The case went cold, and Ernest's name faded into obscurity. His disappearance became a tale told around campfires, a chilling story of the man who vanished without a trace. But just as people had begun to forget about Ernest Olkowski, something unthinkable happened. But then, as mysteriously as he vanished, Ernest reappeared. After 10 years, Ernest Olkowski reappeared, but something was different. A decade had passed, but it seemed as if no time had elapsed for Ernest. He was the same age, the same man, but his demeanor had shifted. He was no longer the quiet, unassuming individual we once knew. Instead, he returned with an air of mystery, an aura that was both captivating and unnerving. Ernest's behavior was not the only thing that changed. His knowledge of events, seemingly from the future, was uncanny. He would causally mention world events that had not yet occurred. From the technology advancements to the outcomes of significant political elections, he seemed to have a window into the future. His predictions were not vague or ambiguous. Instead, they were precise, detailed, and most alarmingly, accurate. This newfound ability, or perhaps knowledge, sent ripples of speculation through those who knew him. Whispers of time travel began to circulate. Could it be that Ernest Olkowski had somehow traversed the boundaries of time? Had he disappeared only to return from a future decade? The idea was thrilling and terrifying in equal measure, yet Ernest remained silent on the subject. He neither confirmed nor denied the rumors. Instead, he continued to live his life, all the while sharing his insights into the future. He seemed to take no pleasure in his predictions, treating them as mundane facts rather than revelations. As the years passed, Ernest's reputation grew. His predictions became the stuff of legend, and his name became synonymous with mystery. People began to look to him, not just for his insights into the future, but for answers. Who was Ernest Olkowski, and how did he come by his knowledge? The questions multiplied, but Ernest remained an enigma. He continued to live his life in quiet obscurity, seemingly indifferent to the speculation surrounding him. Yet, his predictions continued, each more accurate than the last, each adding another layer to the mystery of Ernest Olkowski. And then, Ernest started to predict the future. It was no longer a question of if his predictions would come true, but when. The man who had returned from a decade-long disappearance was now shaping the course of the future, one prediction at a time. Ernest Olkowski, the man who had vanished for a decade, began to make eerily accurate predictions. After his sudden reappearance, Ernest became known for forecasts that seemed to defy the laws of chance and probability. He spoke of technological advancements that were unthinkable at the time. He predicted the rise of artificial intelligence, the advent of self-driving vehicles, and the widespread use of virtual reality for both entertainment and professional training. All of these seemed like wild sci-fi fantasies until they started becoming our everyday reality. Ernest didn't stop at predicting technological leaps. He ventured into the realm of geopolitics, forecasting political events and changes that would shape the world. He foresaw the rise and fall of certain leaders, the shift in global power dynamics, and even accurately predicted the outcome of several major elections across the globe. But his predictions were not limited to the macrocosm of world events. On a more personal level, he could predict the life paths of individuals he barely knew, forecasting career changes, personal growth, and even health issues with uncanny precision. The question on everyone's lips was, how did he do it? Was he genuinely gifted with a sixth sense, an uncanny ability to see through the veil of time? Or was there a more rational explanation, rooted in the mysteries of science and the unexplored depths of the human mind? Ernest Olkowski himself remained evasive, never fully revealing the source of his knowledge. He would simply smile his enigmatic smile and say that he saw patterns where others saw chaos. His remarkable predictions sparked debates among scientists, skeptics, and believers alike. Some called him a modern-day Nostradamus, others a charlatan. Yet as his predictions continued to come true, even his fiercest critics were forced to admit that there was something extraordinary about Ernest Olkowski. But how could a man predict the future with such accuracy? This question continues to baffle us, and the enigma that is Ernest Olkowski remains one of the most intriguing mysteries of our time. The theory that Ernest Olkowski is a time traveler began to gain traction. Whispers of his uncanny ability to predict events, coupled with his mysterious disappearance and sudden return, gave birth to a tantalizing idea. Could Ernest Olkowski have been traveling through time, or was he merely a man with an uncanny knack for prediction? Let's delve into the theory. Many point to his accurate predictions as evidence. Olkowski claimed to have seen things that were yet to happen, things that, in his time, were improbable, if not impossible. Yet they happened, as if he had seen the future. But predictions alone are not enough to substantiate time travel. Then there's his sudden disappearance and equally sudden return. Olkowski vanished without a trace, only to reappear years later without having aged a day. This dramatic change, or lack thereof, raised many an eyebrow. Was it the result of time travel or just an elaborate hoax? Now let's talk about the skeptics. There are those who dismiss the time travel theory, attributing Olkowski's predictions and sudden reappearance to mere coincidence or even deceit. They argue that time travel, as we understand it, is scientifically impossible. And they have a point. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, moving forward in time is theoretically possible given the right conditions. But moving backward is a different story. It would require something called a wormhole, a shortcut through space-time, which is purely theoretical at this point. So, is time travel possible? The jury is still out on that one. But whether or not Ernest Olkowski is a time traveler, his story continues to captivate us. His predictions, his disappearance, and his return are all shrouded in mystery. And who doesn't love a good mystery? Ernest Olkowski, a man of mystery, a prophet, or a time traveler? You decide. Today, Ernest Olkowski lives a quiet life, but the questions remain. Fast forward to the present day, and you'll find Ernest Olkowski living a life that's as unassuming as the man himself. Nestled in a small town, far removed from the hustle and bustle of the city, Olkowski spends his days much like anyone else. He enjoys simple pleasures like gardening, reading, and the occasional chess match with his neighbors. Yet the whispers of his past continue to echo around him, forever casting a long and intriguing shadow. His present existence, as tranquil as it may seem, does little to quell the storm of questions that still swirl around him. Why did he disappear all those years ago? Where did he go? And perhaps most compelling of all, how did he know about events before they happened? These questions, like stubborn ghosts, refuse to be laid to rest, and continue to fuel the fires of curiosity and speculation. For some, the idea of Ernest Olkowski as a time traveler is more than just a theory, it's a belief. They see his prophecies as proof of his ability to traverse time and his disappearance and return as evidence of his journeys. However, without concrete proof, these theories remain just that, theories. And these theories, as tantalizing as they are, only serve to deepen the mystery surrounding Olkowski. Others, more skeptical, find it hard to believe in such fantastical claims. They argue that Olkowski's predictions could just as easily be chalked up to coincidence or perhaps even an uncanny ability to read the signs of the times. But even among the skeptics, there's a sense of unease, a nagging feeling that there's more to Olkowski than meets the eye. No matter where you stand on the matter, one thing is for sure. Ernest Olkowski is a man shrouded in mystery. A man who, despite his seemingly ordinary life, continues to captivate us with his enigmatic past. A man whose story, even now, is far from over. Ernest Olkowski, an enigma wrapped in a riddle, a man out of time. As we have seen, Ernest Olkowski's life is full of inexplicable events. This man, whose existence is as enigmatic as a puzzle, has left us with a tantalizing trail of questions. His disappearance, for instance, was no ordinary vanishing act. He was gone for a whole decade, only to reappear without a day's age on him. But the shocks don't stop there. His predictions, eerily accurate, have been the source of much speculation. He foretold significant events from the economic downturns to political upheavals with an accuracy that sends chills down one's spine. And then there's the time travel theory. Could Ernest Olkowski, an otherwise ordinary man, have mastered the art of bending time? Could he have been a visitor from another era or perhaps a traveler to different points in our timeline? Ernest Olkowski, a man whose life is a mystery that may never be solved.